This is a Best in Climate episode of Earth Feels, where each week your hosts Rose and Christine read to you from some of the best climate-related blogs and articles on the web.
Hey there, it's Rose here with this week's episode of Best in Climate. This week, I've been ruminating about disposables. So as the coronavirus is surging once again, and I can tell you as I record this, Texas and Florida have both shut down their bars, some of their restaurants. They've scaled back because things are going crazy out there. But I've been ruminating about every pair of rubber gloves, every disposable face mask that's being thrown away right now. Beyond that, every takeout container, every cup of tea that I purchase, the fact that I can't use my reusable bags at the grocery store. It seems like in spite of all of our good intentions to recycle and upcycle, compost, eat less meat, grow our own food, boycott Nestle, drive less, lots of our sustainable practices seem to have fallen by the wayside right now. I'm really excited that we have PPE, personal protective equipment, to help our frontline workers, but at the same time, we're adding just more trash to the landfill, and it really is upsetting to me. One of the things about this virus, in my humble opinion, is that it has shone a light on the inadequacies of so many of our systems, right? And here it is shining a light on the fact that while we as consumers can make better choices, systemic change is necessary for us to turn the tide of climate chaos. So you may remember that Christine and I talked with Harriet Sugarman, aka Climate Mama, in episodes 65 and 67 about our superpowers, our individual superpowers, our collective superpowers too. First being the power of our purse. And we exercise that every time we don't shop at Walmart or we don't buy from Nestle because they're pumping water out of the aquifer for nothing and selling it to people. So the power of our purse is one of these three superpowers that Harriet had identified. The second is the power of our voice. I think we have seen the power of our voice starting in January of 2017 with the Women's March, where hundreds of thousands of women all around the world got out to protest indignities to women, sexual harassment, the whole Me Too movement. So there's power of our voice. We've seen it with Greta Thunberg and the people she's awakened to climate chaos, starting with Futures for Friday and how that's just become such a huge movement for the youth and for all of us who care about our planet, right? And of course, it goes without saying what we're seeing in the streets right now for Black Lives Matter. Not just Black people, white people too, brown people, all people in the streets saying enough is enough. So yes, this virus has awakened us to our superpowers. Well, the third superpower we have is the power of our vote. And I came across this article written by Linda Poppenheimer entitled "Voting is an Environmental Act." And I would like to read that for you now because it talks about how important our vote is. So again, Linda writes under a website called Green Groundswell with the subtitle "Home of the Unlikely Environmentalist." I think she's similar to me in that she came to this a little bit later in life, her caring for the earth. She's using the power of her voice right now. So this is entitled "Voting is an Environmental Act" and subtitled "Vote, It's Your Superpower." The main artwork for this essay is a picture of some activists holding a sign that says "Vote on behalf of your mother." And the picture of mother on the placard is Earth herself. The environment surrounds you, me, and everyone else, every second of every day. If you want a habitable planet to live on, you need to vote for it. Everyone deserves and needs clean air to breathe, safe water to drink, healthy food to eat, toxin-free places to live, work, study, and play, and an opportunity to enjoy the rest of nature. We share the earth with billions of other living things that need a habitable planet to live on, too. Earth is a sphere where everything is connected. The environment crosses all property lines, state boundaries, and international borders. When you vote with the environment in mind, You have the power to affect environmental issues in your community, county, state, country, and even around the world. In this post, I will attempt to demonstrate how voting impacts the environment by providing a few past and present examples with the hope of encouraging you and other readers to vote in the next election and in future elections. Your vote matters. Voting gives you an opportunity to weigh in on who you want to represent you in various government bodies and to participate in deciding whether ballot measures should be approved or not. Closest to home are local elections. You and other voters in your community choose your mayor, if you have one, city council members, school board members, county supervisors, and special district board members, e.g. Water Services District. And you vote on local and county-wide ballot measures from banning fracking to property tax assessments for services. In statewide elections, you have a chance to elect a governor and state legislators that are aligned with your priorities and to vote for or against propositions that apply to the whole state, like legalizing cannabis, banning single-use plastic bags, or approving bonds to fund water conservation projects. Participating in national elections enables you to vote for the United States President and members of Congress. The President, in turn, appoints his or her cabinet, the people who lead federal agencies such as the Departments of State, Energy, Agriculture, Education, Defense, Interior, Health and Human Services, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Below are some examples of why your vote matters with a focus on the environment. Your vote matters to your community. Water is a constant environmental concern in Cambria, the small town I live in on the California Central Coast in San Luis Obispo County. In November, Cambria residents will vote for 2 of the 5 seats on the Cambria Community Services District, CCSD, Board of Directors that oversee our water supply, wastewater treatment, fire protection, and parks and recreation. This election is a big deal because in 2014, current and former board members decided to build an emergency water reclamation plant to filter brackish groundwater and re-inject it back into the local watershed to supplement our water supply. The facility was built using a temporary emergency permit at a whopping cost of $13 million. Ratepayers are now saddled with an environmentally unsound plant that cannot be operated without expensive rework and perhaps never. Even though our water bills have doubled, much needed infrastructure repair and replacement projects have been put on the back burner by the board. The decisions that the CCSD board make directly affect my family and me, so voting for the candidates that I feel will do the best job is important to me. Your vote matters to your county. San Luis Obispo voters will have the opportunity to vote on Measure G18, which would prohibit new petroleum extraction and ban all oil and gas well stimulation treatments, e.g. fracking, on land within the unincorporated area of the county. This ballot measure is the result of a coalition of San Luis Obispo County residents who are concerned about the oil fields already operating in the county and want to put a kibosh on future expansion. Oil extraction uses a tremendous amount of water. Some of it is reclaimed and treated. However, toxic oil wastewater is also injected into aquifers underlying the county, which may be needed at some point in the future to provide drinking water or to irrigate the agricultural fields and vineyards in this rural area. Drinking water wells near the oil fields are at risk of contamination. Protecting our water is of paramount importance to me. I also believe we need to get off burning fossil fuels as quickly as possible and power our society with clean, renewable energy. So I think this measure is a step in the right direction. Your vote matters to your state. This year, California voters will go to the polls to elect a new governor to replace Governor Jerry Brown Jr., who is leaving office after serving longer than any other California governor. An aside here, this is Rose. Obviously, Jerry Brown is no longer, so this article is from a couple of years ago, but I think it wears well. Besides balancing the state budget, Governor Brown has positioned California as an environmental leader and cutting greenhouse gas emissions and changing over to clean, renewable energy. Will our new governor keep the momentum going, stall it, or actively try to thwart it? It depends on who we vote for to lead the state. Also on the California ballot are 11 propositions, one of which deals with water, a perennial issue in our drought-prone state. Proposition 3 is a bond measure that could provide much-needed funding for safe drinking water facilities, as well as watershed management projects to prevent soil erosion and flooding, and to recharge groundwater basins. Sometimes proposition titles and summaries make them seem better than they are, so it pays to read the full text during the weeks leading up to the election. Your vote matters to your country. In 2016, a twist in the Electoral College process resulted in Donald Trump becoming the 45th president of the United States, even though Hillary Clinton received more votes. From the time President Trump took office on January 20th, 2017, until now, his actions have already had a far-reaching impact on the United States and the rest of the world. Looking at his actions from an environmental perspective, I selected 2 that stand out as being particularly harmful and dangerous to not only the American people, but to the people around the world. When President Trump appointed Scott Pruitt to head the EPA, he was making good on his campaign promise to overturn and roll back environmental regulations and safeguards while attempting to dismantle the agency founded in 1970 to protect the health and well-being of the American people and the environment. Pruitt, a former Oklahoma Attorney General with a long history of suing the EPA, proceeded to repeal the Clean Power Plan that would have cut greenhouse gas emissions and pollution from fossil fuel burning power plants, rescinded the Waters of the United States Clean Water Rule aimed at protecting wetlands that recharge aquifers and prevent flooding, and refused to ban chlorpyrifos, a pesticide known to be a carcinogen. In July of 2018, after months of being hounded for his excessive spending of taxpayer dollars, interestingly, not because he was destroying the agency he was sworn to lead, Pruitt resigned. He was replaced by former coal lobbyist Andrew Wheeler, who is now presiding over rolling back federal clean car standards that would have increased fuel efficiency of new vehicles and reduced air pollution. Your vote matters to the world. Fulfilling another campaign promise, Trump announced in June of 2016 that he was withdrawing the United States from the Paris Agreement, an international agreement signed by 195 countries with the long-term goal of keeping the global average temperature below 2% above pre-industrial levels to minimize the risks of climate change. The United States should be leading the effort to end the era of fossil fuels and to accelerate the transition to clean, renewable energy, not isolating itself from the rest of the world. One can only wonder how much progress the United States could be making on the environmental front if every eligible voter had voted in 2016. We have another chance in 2020. I hope the above examples adequately illustrate how voting affects the environment, which in turn affects you, me, and everyone else hoping to live on Earth now and in the future. Imagine if everyone voted. The number one reason many people give for not voting is that they do not think that their vote matters. Certainly, it's your right to vote or not to vote. However, if you choose not to vote, you are still influencing election results. I was fortunate to grow up with 2 parents who regularly voted and gave me the understanding that voting is a privilege and a duty of being a United States citizen. I still believe that, and I vote. Even though the candidates that I vote for do not always win the election, and ballot measures I am against pass, and measures that I am for fail, I still feel voting is important. In those cases, I have made my voice heard and provided a data point. In today's data-driven world, if enough of us create the same data point, politicians will take notice and act accordingly. Imagine if everyone were to overcome apathy, difficult voting situations, some states make it harder than others, and other reasons for not voting, and we all voted in the upcoming election and future elections. We could come together and vote for people who will actively work towards keeping Earth habitable for ourselves, our children, and future generations. Let's do it. If you need help finding information about national, state, or local elections, USA.gov's Voting and Elections webpage is a good place to start. Nonprofit Ballotpedia's elections webpage also houses useful information and links. Californians, you can find information on the California Secretary of State's election and voter information webpage. And then Linda closes with this quote, "Whether we and our politicians know it or not, nature is party to all our deals and decisions, and she has more votes, a longer memory, and a sterner sense of justice than we do." And that's attributed to Wendell Berry. And there you have it from Linda Poppenheimer. Linda researches and writes about environmental topics to share information and spark conversation. Her mission is to live more lightly on the earth and to persuade everyone else to do so. I'll post a link to her website, greengroundswell.com, on our Earth Feels podcast webpage. I hope she's given you some points to ponder in your decision to vote in the upcoming November election. There's a meme that I've seen a number of times, you probably have seen it too, that says, "Vote as if your life depended on it." I would expand that a bit and say, vote as if every sentient being on Earth's life depended on it. Because it does. Thanks for listening. Hope you're staying safe. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye. That's this week's episode of Earth Feels. Special thanks to singer-songwriter Kristen Hoffman for generously allowing us to use Song for the Ocean. Thanks for listening.
Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss an episode. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Children of the earth, I'm calling out. There's a mission for you and for me.